And I do have to do something about Mammon over here as well. Is there a second legion in the bazaar that could help? Technically, the Adamantine Guard could work, but it's a little bit too expensive for me at the moment. The Beast is in the back rooms. They're a Titan. They've got their own unique model, but cost tribute every turn. What about in terms of rituals? What do I have available? Not a lot that could help. But what I could do is put a stratagem on the Accursed Company. One that would increase their ranged significantly. Or give temporary hit points and ranged. That might be a little safer. Can I pay for this exactly? No. But that's close enough. So I want to consider how I'm going to order these. I think I might want to put the Close Waters training first, and then move into Elizabeth's Legion, and put the stratagem on them last. It's a little bit risky, because Mammon might be able to do something here, but I think this will work. Let's take a look. Mammon's just going to take a canton. Oh, he's going for a place of power. That's not going to work. Elizabeth spends her first move moving her mindless legion a little closer. Astaroth takes one of my cantons. And Belphegor's going to raise a second Dark Pylon. That's nowhere near us, so we don't need to worry too much about it. Let's see what that stratagem is. It decreases my ranged, but that's not too bad, to be honest. It could have been something a lot nastier. And that is one dead legion for Elizabeth. Crucially, we also move before Mammon next turn as well. So as you can see, we're the clear prestige leader. This can be a bad thing because it means everybody has a massive target on me. As you can see, I'm being attacked by multiple different players at once here, and I'm just about managing to fend them off. Infernal Monsoons is a problem. For 4 turns, the movement of all legions will be 1, which means that I now can't really catch the Gilded of Mammon. Which means that there's a good possibility that he will be able to take the Tower of Pride. Unless I put some stratagems on it. Let's see what we can do. I'll take the melee increase and the infernal increase for legions. I'll take the final 2 pages of these manuscripts that I need. I'll keep holding Evil Ward up, but it's getting a little bit expensive. I'm going to need to seek some tribute here. And Ram actually managed to beat Fennex. Nobody put any bribes in, and my Veil of Smoke is better than his. This does mean that Fennex survives, so Belphegor still has him. Legion combat is still worth extra prestige. I'm so far ahead in prestige and there are no more ranks to gain, so this isn't particularly relevant to me anymore. And I still have that temporary hit points and range stratagem on the Accursed Company. So that last event means that Mammon can't reach the Tower of Pride this turn, which is what he wants to get. He needs to capture a place of power. He's got 5 more turns left to do it. So I've got a bit of time to prepare, but this is the only time I have to prepare. He'll move before me on the next turn. So let's draw 3 Seek tributes. I think I'm running out of tribute a little bit here, and I really don't want to completely run out. And we will see what stratagems we can put on. What's he good at? He's pretty good at melee. He's got some range training, 6-9 there. We're weak in ranged. So let's see if we can reduce his ranged by 4 to 7 and increase. Increasing my ranged isn't going to work. I can live the ranged hits, but I die in the melee phase. So what if I reduce his melee and increase mine? That should give us a good shot at killing him. No, I don't think that kills him. I think I just die in the infernal phase. Let's instead reduce melee and infernal. That ought to help. We've got to overpay a little bit for this, but that's okay. That gives me a shot at surviving at least. Then I'm going to move my Legion to attempt to intercept. You never know, he might order his moves incorrectly. And for my final action, I'll continue to... or will I? Are manuscripts particularly helpful for me right now? Would I be better served by blocking a diplomatic channel? I think I'd be better served by blocking Belial's diplomatic channel. This is quite an important strategy to understand if you're going to play this multiplayer, so I should probably explain it here. If 2 players send a diplomatic action on the same turn, there are a number of tiebreakers that are in effect, and the first is the infernal rank. As I am a prince and Belial is a baron, if I send a diplomatic action to him this turn, it will always be prioritized over his. If the 2 players have the same infernal rank, then whoever put it in the earlier order slot will get it through. If they both put it in the same order slot, then it's whoever's turn came up first. Essentially, whichever person's paperwork gets to the conclave first gets to do their thing. Because I am so much higher rank than all of my opponents here, I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And I can, in fact, just say to Belial, give me some stuff, and he's going to have to deal with that next turn. Interestingly, Erzsébet has asked if she can be Belphegor's vassal. Clearly she thinks that she has no way of fighting me and would be best served trying to essentially come in second if Belphegor wins. I don't really think she's picked a very good candidate, but let's see how this goes. Mammon, of course, is going to set up on the Tower of Pride. Erzsébet's going to move her Titan closer to Pandemonium. And my Legion is going to set up on Mammon's Legion. So the big question for this turn is whether Mammon will move his Legion first. If he doesn't move his Legion in the first order slot, then I just kill it. And if he does, then it's whether or not my stratagems are enough to keep the Tower of Pride in my hands. Let's make sure we get the tribute we need. That's a lot better. And Astaroth has sent a demand to me. I believe I have accepted one of his demands previously. So if I accept this one, he's going to be able to declare weakness on me next turn and start attacking me anyway. I'm not certain I can keep the Mouth of Abaddon as things stand. It's only got 5 hit points, and these legions are looking pretty nasty. I'm going to accept this anyway, and just give him some rubbish tokens, because I can start blocking his diplomatic channel next turn and stop him from declaring weakness. Next we keep holding up Evil Ward, because destruction would be bad right now. And as I mentioned, our first action has to be attempting to attack Mammon's Legion. Our second and third can be getting tribute and manuscripts. Our fourth is going to be spent on trying to extort Belphegor, just to stop him from doing anything nasty to me. And as for our fifth, now that's interesting. I could purchase the Devourer statuettes. Devourer statuettes are an artifact of sorcery. It allows you to summon a large titan called the Devourer, which is quite difficult to kill, and when it takes a place of power, or a stronghold, instead of taking it and allowing it to be converted to your side, it will instead eat it. And this is quite important in a couple of rather niche situations, but most of the time the Devourer is just a summonable large legion. And that sounds pretty much perfect for what I want at the moment. And we can pay for that exactly too. That's pretty nice. And I'm going to need some more tribute if I've just spent a bunch. Let's see how this goes. Let's see if Mammon takes the Tower of Pride. He's going for it. But I just about managed to roll well enough on my stratagems. I rolled quite high on these, that it's left on 1 hit point. That is insanely lucky, but you've got to take these chances sometimes. And of course the follow-up is that my legion attacks and destroys his. Thanks to the stratagem I put on previously, I have just enough damage to defeat the Gilded of Mammon. Not only does he lose his legion, but he loses the praetor that was attached to it as well. Furfur is a reasonably weak praetor, so it's not too devastating on turn 43, but early game, losing a legion like that is terrible. Urzabet doesn't really seem to know what to do at this point. And people keep stealing my books, which is, at worst, mildly irritating. I've got so many disparate manuscripts that I really don't think anybody can steal anything I care about at this point. Oh, hello! Okay, Mammon has purchased the beast. That's pretty bad, because the beast is very strong. As you can see, it's got 17 melee, 21 infernal, and the ranged phase is resolved last, if you've survived the previous 2 phases. Not only that, but it can teleport 5 cantons, due to its teleport range +2 ability, and is generally a bad time to fight. He's got 3 turns to get the beast as deep into my territory as he can and take the Tower of Pride, which he's going to be able to do very, very easily if he plays it correctly. The one weakness the beast has is its upkeep. 4 souls per turn is pretty hefty. And of course, any weaknesses that the Archfiend themselves has is also a weakness of the beast. Well, let's take these stat books, because I think we're going to need them. Belial's decided that he's going to reject my extort, which means that, at last, I get to declare a vendetta against him, and I think I can destroy 2 legions within 2 turns. I'll max the prestige wager on that. I am once again going to keep my ritual going. And now I need to think of a plan to deal with the beast, because this is pretty bad. As I mentioned, he's got 3 turns to do something with this, and he can very easily get to the Tower of Pride and take it within those turns. The easiest method to deal with this is going to be with a Titan of my own, and fortunately I have won the auction for the Devourer statues. So I can place that on my ritual table, ready for use next turn. And I'm going to need tribute to use the Devourer, as it costs 6 of each resource to summon. Subtle. And I may as well start training my legions for the oncoming battle. If you put enough of these books on your legions, they can actually become quite formidable. So I'll put the melee one on the Accursed Company here. And I think I mentioned last turn that I need to block Astaroth's diplomatic channel. So I'm going to put a Humiliate up, and if he declines, he's going to have to fight Realm. There's not going to be an issue with him being able to declare weakness, as his rank is only Marquis, and I'm a Prince, so anything I try to do will automatically be prioritized. Well, let's see how this goes. And the beast is going to head off in completely the opposite direction that I thought it was going to be honest. Presumably this is Mammon giving up on his attempts to take my place of power. He might just be going for Pandemonium. If he was, I'm not sure why he didn't teleport instead of trying to walk. The beast can teleport far further than it can walk, but never mind. And Erzsébet has summoned the Frozen Lords. They're a pretty good legion, they've got a lot of health. So as we can see, Belphegor declined Erzsébet's offer of vassalage. Our tribute. I'll take the darkness instead of the souls there. And Belphegor has challenged me to a Praetor duel, Mulciber. So in order to fight Mulciber, I'm going to need a Strong Orbs move. And unfortunately, Strong Orbs moves are what Realm is all about. I'll also be able to bribe here. Seal of Repudiation is something that Mulciber, with their current moveset, can't really do anything about, so I'm not entirely sure why Belphegor thinks this is a good idea. I will continue to keep my ritual up. So, we move first here. And as a result, we're going to move our legion up towards Belial's. Now I've made a bit of a mistake here. I've only given myself 2 turns to destroy 2 legions, and I have forgotten that all of my legions can only move 1 space. That was an error. It's possible that I might be able to rectify this with destruction rituals. If, for example, I'm able to successfully zap Oni's Faithful this turn, that might be a little better for me. I also have the ability to get this rather valuable event card of Conquest Past, allowing me to promote a legion without needing to fight. I'll hold that for a little bit. At this point, tribute is less important than what I can buy with it. So we're going to consider which powers we want to use. It may be worth putting a stratagem on the Accursed Company. It may be worth just activating some more of these manuscripts. Yeah, I think I'll give the Chosen of Andromalius an extra manuscript here. Move them up to the Palace of Gluttony, which they should be able to fight if they give them a strategy. They're going to need to reduce that thing's ranged and increase their own melee by about 7. Reduce ranged, increase melee. And a second stratagem to increase melee will allow them to take that with no issue. Yes, I'm not particularly happy with myself making that mistake with Infernal Monsoons, but it could work out. Erzsébet's moving towards Pandemonium there and could be planning an assault on the city itself. Okay, that's not too bad. Infernal Infliction hitting the Oni means that I can potentially get that next turn and still complete my vendetta. Belphegor, meanwhile, is just trying to level up his legions. At this stage in the game, I'm going to need to look towards Pandemonium and question what I want to do with it. I either want to try and defend it because I'm the clear prestige leader, I think that's the way to go here, or I need to try and consider how best to take it. Erzsébet is clearly thinking about that. The Walking Fortress can't actually damage Pandemonium given that all of its stats are lower, but stratagems and level ups and legion support can change that reasonably quickly. I think I want to defend Pandemonium and make sure nobody tries to take it, but in order to do that, I'm going to need significant legion power myself. This is the thing about the Praetor dual strategy that I've been doing. It doesn't mean that you can completely ignore legions. By the end of the game, you have to have legions, because they're pretty much the answer to everything. They're not the best answer to everything. In fact, often they're not the best answer to anything. But they are an answer to everything. Legions can get you what you want, the vast majority of the time. So let's deal with our duel against Mulciber here. I'm going to need to bribe for this, unless I have a very good orbs move somewhere here. I don't. So I'm going to need to bribe for this to make sure that Realm is safe. I'm not going to use Darkness because I don't really have too much of that. This seems like a decent enough bribe. For my first move, I need to move into Belial's Legion and hope that he doesn't do anything to get it out of the way. For my second move, I'm going to need to finish off the Oni. It's important to put these first, because if Belial's going to do anything in his turns that could mess with it, I want to try and get it in first. For my third and fourth order, I'm happy to seek manuscripts. For my fifth, I'm going to attack the Palace of Gluttony. It says it's a doomed battle, but it in fact is not, due to the stratagems we have placed on our legion. And what do we want for our 6th action? For our 6th action, I'm going to attempt to make demands of Erzabet just to block that diplomatic channel. I don't want any nasty surprises. Let's see how this goes. So Mammon is doing strange AI things and isn't really utilizing the beast properly, which is a bit of a shame. The Accursed Company is able to clean up the Children of Belial even with the combat support from the Oni next to them. They're just so much stronger than them because of the manuscripts I put on them and the fact that they're a level 3 legion by default. It is at this point that I'm realizing that the event ended and I could have just moved into both of his legions, and I've essentially just thrown that vendetta. That wasn't smart of me, but it's the kind of mistake that can happen when you're dealing with so many moving parts. And we take a little bit of damage at the start of that combat, but those extra melee stratagems pretty much ensure that we take the Palace of Gluttony no problem. It's a level 5 place of power, gives 3 prestige per turn. If you manage to get a place like this in the early game, it can cement you a really significant advantage. This late it's sort of meh, but it was there for the taking, so I thought why not. And I've got enough Wrath that being next to a place of power that I own will heal them to full anyway. So, foiled by Belial because I can't read and definitely didn't see that the event had ended, and unfortunately my ritual was resisted. That's a shame, that's a major misplay. I'll take Seal of Repudiation, it's definitely the best move there, and marching training is pretty good. Ravine training and vent training aren't particularly relevant for where we are, so I'll take Rain of Brimstone and Ravine training because I have to take one of them. The Chosen of Andromalius have been promoted, so I think I'm going to take Melee and Infernal here. I'll be outfitting them with stratagems that allow them to mess with the order of battle. And now I get to fight Decarabia. This is a problem because he's got Seal of Repudiation and I don't have a Skulls move. As Decarabia is level 4 and Realm is only level 3, one more victory to be level 4, if they both use Seal of Repudiation, Decarabia's will activate and Realms won't. So what I have to do is use Veil of Smoke here, and I'm not going to bribe because I'm going to teach Realm Devilish Regeneration over Veil of Smoke. As mentioned earlier, this means that Devilish Regeneration will actually activate in the duel, so even if I lose that, Realm is still alive. The Accursed Company's promoted, and I'm going to give them the maximum hit points to try and put them out of one-shot range for most of the rituals in the game. And I'm going to keep holding my rituals up. In fact, I can drop this one now, because Devourer Statuettes gives me Destruction Resistance +2 just by itself. That should probably be enough with the levels that my Legion has and my Infernal rank to resist most rituals that are going to come into the game. As mentioned, Demonic Trance is countered by Seal of Repudiation, and the massive bribe means that Mulciber really stood no chance. Mammon still is technically in a war with me, but there's not a lot he can do to me this turn. So, I'm going to block Belial's diplomatic channel. This time I'm going to humiliate him with destroying 1 legion within 2 turns being my goal if he declines. I'm going to put 2 Seek Tribute actions and 1 Seek Manuscript action at the start of the turn. And I definitely need to think about what to do with Belphegor next turn. I think I'm going to need to put a Humiliate on him and start taking some of the territory around Pandemonium if I'm going to be able to defend that adequately. I could buy the Tongue of the Liar. That would increase my deceit, but my deceit is terrible at the moment. So that's not a particularly good buy. The way it works is that when you put an artifact of pride that gives you a power level into a place of power, it will boost you up to the next level. The levels afterwards, however, still maintain their increased costs, so unless it will take you from, say, 3 to 4, it's best to hold on to them for when you'll get a more of an effect out of it. Ideally, in this situation, I'd really like an artifact that gives me Wrath or Prophecy, just to give me access to the level 6 powers in those trees. But that's not something I have at the moment. Nothing I can do in terms of diplomacy. No, I'm maxed out on that. I'm basically fighting everybody at this point. I think more manuscripts are really the only thing to go for. Astaroth certainly wants to get more into my territory, but he's being diplomatically blocked, so there's not a lot he can do to me at the moment. These Legion placements would be a lot more concerning if I didn't have a rank advantage on them. Okay, so let's start by selecting our tribute. I'll take everything except the souls. And again. I'll take the Wrath Book just in case. And actually I'll not bother with the Wrath Book, I'll take the other 2. Teleporting a Legion is something that isn't likely to come to pass, but it's nice to have the option. Infernal Blast is just a good manuscript to have if I need to suddenly switch realms moves. Gambler's Strike finished off, and the final melee book. Excellent. So Urzabet has rejected my Extor, as I knew she would. So once again, she's going to have to fight Realm. Realm killed Decarabia with Devilish Regeneration. Astaroth didn't put any bribes in, and even if he did, it wouldn't have mattered. Realm is getting to the point now where it's going to be difficult to beat them. Ever. I've resisted Mammon's Vendetta, my humiliation has been delivered to Belial, and my Evil Ward 2 ritual has no longer has an effect. So first things, tribute. And I'm going to use Of Conquest Past on the Accursed Company. I think they're going to more or less stick around for the rest of the game at this point. So an extra promotion on them will be very, very helpful. I need to continue to block Belphegor's diplomacy. So I'm going to humiliate him and challenge him to a territory capture vendetta. 3 turns for 3 cantons, should he decline. I need to do the same for Mammon, but I'm going to extort him for an artifact just to block that channel for longer. I probably just want to duel him. And I'm going to start increasing Realm's abilities in orbs. You may have picked this up so far, but the way these work is that the number in the top right is added to the number that already exists on the Praetor's move. So if I teach this +3 Infernal Blast over this 2 Seal of Repudiation, I will get a +5 Infernal Blast. This is setting up for next turn because I want to instead teach our Seal of Repudiation back onto Realm. Seal of Repudiation is a very strong move, but I need the actual numbers to be higher. Realm isn't the best duelist in the game. Better duelists tend to have 3 move slots. It gives you the ability to hold one of each type rather than switching around like I've had to all game. But I've been dealing with what I have, and there have always been more important things than upgrading my duelist. If I wanted to get a good one, Queen of the Damned is incredible because she comes with 3 very good moves right off the gate. Valak is also good because they have 3 slots, but right now I think Realm basically beats everybody. I'm not sure I even have to keep bribing, which is very, very strong. The AI seems to be a little bit unclear with what to do with their titans. Mammon especially is just having the beast kind of wander around and not really know what he's doing. He wants to set up legions on my borders, but as I mentioned, blocking his diplomacy with my constant extort bullying, because I hold a rank advantage over him, can pretty much stifle his attempts indefinitely. It costs me moves each time, but it also stops him doing what he wants to do, and gets me quite a lot of prestige, allowing me to pull even further ahead. After quite a lot of setup, Belphegor has finally taken the city of Dis. This is a very powerful place of power. It gives you 3 more votes when choosing an edict. It can be very impactful early on, but I think it's a bit too late to do anything for him now. As you can see, as the game goes on, the turns get longer because everybody gets significantly more actions. Mammon gets yet another legion. I think if I were to fight him I could still win, but I don't want to because dueling is more my thing. So, as we can see, I can promote the Accursed Company again, and I'm going to take the extra melee? I'll take the melee. It's the stat they're best at. I'll take the non-souls tribute. Here I think I'm happy to drop the 3 souls in favour of getting the other types that I need more. Belial has rejected my humiliate, which means that I get to just kill his legion. There's nothing he can do about that because I go before him. Let's check my diplomacy, and I see that I need to block Astaroth's diplomatic channels again. Keeping everybody tied down with constant demands is a staple of late game play when you're far ahead. You want to be fighting on your terms as much as possible. If, say, Astaroth managed to drag me into a vendetta where he was allowed to use his legions, I'd be losing the Mouth of Abaddon, I'd be losing this territory, I might be in a bit of trouble. But keeping him locked down like this with essentially paperwork is a very, very strong strategy. So Realm has successfully learned Infernal Blast, which means that I can now teach Seal of Repudiation over the top of that and get a much stronger move out of it. I think I am in fact going to purchase the Queen of the Damned for dueling purposes, just to have a backup. And I've got just enough to do that. I'm going to increase my deceit because this is currently a weakness of mine. As you can see, I'm currently in the stage of the game where you need to think significantly less about the impact of all of your actions because you're so far ahead. this is a good, comfortable place to be in. Just want to make sure I've not left any diplomacy on the table. Nope, we're all good. And I'll sprinkle in a manuscript drawer at the end there. Now, there are ways around this strategy that constantly blocks my opponent's diplomatic abilities. One of them is the diplomatic immunity card. If I can't target them with diplomatic actions, that doesn't stop them doing the same to me. The other way around it is by getting yourself excommunicated. If you attack Pandemonium, either with legions or rituals, you are excommunicated from the Conclave. You no longer have its protections or its benefits, and what this means is that you can attack anyone you like at any time you like. You're not allowed to purchase any more legions from the bazaar, and anyone can attack you whenever they like as well. So it's the kind of thing that you want to do when you're going for the win, or you just want to kill somebody who's being really annoying and you accept the fact that somebody will probably kill you later. A lot of multiplayer games involve at least one excommunication. Especially late game when someone's going to win and you need to take a big chance anyway to stop them. So, it's turn 50. Most Solium Infernum games start their endgame at turn 50. And somebody has played the Vault Rot event. We've got enough tribute that I'm not really concerned about that, even when it's combined with the Harrowing of Hell, which loses you half of all tribute tokens that contain at least one soul. Excellent. So I'll take the extra Seal of Repudiation manual and the Infernal training. As you can see, Erzabet didn't even send a Praetor. Mammon has rejected my Humiliate, so I am going to send the Queen of the Damned to fight him instead of Ram. Because I'm pretty sure I can train her to be just as scary, if not more. Rita. Speaking of which, I'm going to start training her up. So I'm going to put Oath of Retribution over Bleeding Wound. I'm going to put Gambler's Strike over Sinew Slice. I'm going to put Feral Lunge over Assertion of Will. Now, normally this would be a bad move because that's taking an Orbs move and replacing it with a Skulls move, which you already have. But it's okay here because I just want the bonus, because I intend to teach her Seal of Repudiation instead, which is a much better move. Assertion of Will is pretty nice because it can get you free Praetors, but in this particular instance, I just want the numerical bonuses. Now, we have free diplomatic slots. We have 2, in fact, which is exactly how many moves I have left. And I am once again going to attempt to extort Belial for an artifact. And I'm going to do the same to Erzabet. And again, this is just about making sure nobody can challenge my lead with a nasty vendetta that can give them a lot of prestige. I want to fight on my terms. So you can see Mammon just moving his legions around, wanting to get at me with them, but not being able to. This is why Infernal ranks are so important to get as quickly as you can, because it really does give you an unfair advantage in diplomacy. As it should. It's very appropriate. See, I'd be very concerned about all these legions if you could actually do anything with them. And the assembly of the Conclave has begun. All private schemes are revealed, and prestige values have been adjusted accordingly. If anybody's done a bunch of private schemes, they'll have gained a bunch of prestige we didn't know about. Diplomacy may continue, but no further requests of vassalage can be made. And the assembly phase has begun. The assembly phase happens in 5 phases that can take a random amount of turns each. Once those 5 phases are complete, paperwork restructure, so all vendettas and insults have been cancelled. That's bad for me because now I have to spend a lot of turns putting those back up. But once those 5 phases are complete, assuming Pandemonium is still independent and nobody's taken it over, whoever has the most prestige, currently me, will win the game. So as we can see, 1 of 5. I'm the regent, so I can take traditional bribe. I'm probably not going to use that. All of my diplomatic actions have been interrupted, which is very annoying. And it looks like chaining those trainings together doesn't work. I thought one would replace the other, but apparently not. So I'm going to have to do them again, but first and most importantly, extort Erzsébet, extort Belial, extort Astaroth, extort Belphegor, and now I can teach Seal of Repudiation to the Queen of the Damned over Feral Lunge. And I will probably teach a Gambler's Strike, Unbreakable Stance instead of Gambler's Strike here. Actually, I'm not sure that's worth it. No, I don't think that's worth the slot at the moment. So what next? Well, I may as well put the Queen of the Damned in my stronghold. This will allow me to use Praetors in combat without worrying about losing them. Her special ability, Black Adupement? Not sure how to pronounce that, but Black, whatever that is, means that if Praetors are defeated in Legion combat, they are instead moved to the opponent's vault rather than being killed. That would have been a lot more useful early game, like most things, but I'll take it now. So I think the AI is having difficulty deciding what's best to do with the Titans. They just seem to sort of be wandering around and not doing a lot. Belphegor moving his Infernal Cavalry near my territory is interesting. The AI can pull off some pretty spectacular late game coups, so I can't be completely sure that I'm in a good position here. Especially with Belphegor being so aggressive, it does make me wonder if he has a plan. And it would appear that Mammon failed to keep up the upkeep on the beast, and so no longer has it. The beast didn't really do a lot for Mammon, it just sort of walked around a bit and looked a bit sad. Okay, so we're still in phase 1 of Conclave Assembly. Mammon didn't bother to send a Praetor because he knows that whatever Praetor he sends will just die. All of my extortions have been delivered. I've put Seal of Repudiation back on Queen of the Damned and put her on my stronghold. So first things first, let's take a look at our diplomacy screen and redo the extort for Mammon. So I want to start fighting Belphegor next, and I'm going to transfer Raum for the bonuses here. They're not very large bonuses, but they exist, so we're going to have them. I'm going to put some Seek Tribute in here because I need a bit more money. Because I intend to summon the Devourer reasonably soon. If it becomes relevant. Which it might not. As for my last action, I could probably buy one of these legions. I quite like the Defilers here. Or I could look into a Praetor. Telemachus looks really, really good for the Infernal Company, actually. Because they're mainly focused on melee, and Telemachus is going to double their melee damage dealt. Which would be excellent. Yes, not much of a choice but to overpay slightly for him, but that's okay. And given that that's the case, I'm instead going to put Raum on the Chosen of Andromalius. The sad thing about having a really good duelist like the Queen of the Damned is you almost never get to see them actually duel anyone, because most people won't actually put anybody in against them. Again, you can see Mammon trying to put his legions on my border in the hopes that I will miss a diplomatic action, but it's just not happening. Now, there is a major weakness in my strategy that I've just thought about. And that is the fact that I have revealed my strongest duelist by putting them in my stronghold. If, for example, Belial was attempt to use Bribe Praetor on her, I'd essentially be handing him a more or less unbeatable duelist at this stage in the game. Which would be really bad, which means that I need to think about starting and maintaining the anti-treachery ritual, seeing as my deceit is actually really bad. And that has to be the first thing I do this turn. Prophecy, expose treason 2, start that up. The second thing to do is increase my deceit, for pretty much the same reason, which I can pay exactly for. I seem to remember seeing the Tongue of the Liar in here, but I'm going to need slightly more tribute for it. So I'm going to put a Seek Tribute action in there. Belphegor has rejected my Extort, as has Belial. I could take Belial's Place of Power and put him in Blood Feud range. So I'm going to challenge Belphegor to a Praetor duel. And I'm going to do the same with Astaroth. Belial, on the other hand, I am going to declare a vendetta on, and it will be to capture a place of power within one turn. I've got the movement to get down to the Unholy Fountain. Really the only thing that can stop me is a Unholy Monsoons. And Erzsébet is going to get the dual treatment. So we are now in Conclave Phase 2 of 5, so 3 more phases than I've won. I'm going to want Telemachus to be attached to the Accursed Company. And for my last 2, I'm just going to get more manuscripts, because those are pretty universally useful for me. Unfortunately, my exposed treason ritual goes off without anybody attempting to do anything nasty to me. The prophecy rituals that give you resistance to destruction and deceit are very strong, and give you a very good chance at resisting any destruction ritual or deceit ritual your opponent sends at you, even if you don't really have a lot in that power. Belphegor's legions being on my border like this is slightly concerning because he's got Pandemonium surrounded in his cantons. So if anybody's going to throw a disposable legion into Pandemonium, it's Belphegor. I need to make sure that I move the Chosen of Andromalius down to defend against a possible play on my stronghold. It doesn't matter how far ahead I am, if I lose my stronghold, I'm dead. I'm out of the game. Normally, you can't attack an opponent's stronghold. The only two times when you can are when you declare a blood feud, which you can only do after successfully defeating them in 3 vendettas, or if you're excommunicated, and then the rules don't apply to you. Social niceties are sort of out the window at that point. I'll take Crippling Strike and Demonic Trance. Sinew Slice and Feral Lunge. Those aren't really very good for me. I'll challenge him to another Praetor Duel. And this is a very important ritual which I have to keep going under basically any circumstances. Fortunately, the one event that could stop me doing this hasn't happened, so I shall move in and take the Unholy Fountain, and there's not a lot he can do to stop me, because I moved before him. I'm maxed out on diplomacy right now, so the rest of the turn is mine to do with as I wish, and I'll get some more tribute. It may be time to summon the Devourer. It is time to summon the Devourer. It costs 6 of each tribute type. Subtle. Ah, no souls actually. 6 of everything except souls. 6, 6, 6. I'll end up overpaying slightly, but that's okay. I'll overpay in Hellfire actually, rather than Ichor. I don't have as much Ichor. And my final 2 actions are most likely best spent trying to buy stuff. The Tongue of the Liar would be an excellent pickup for me. And I can pay for it exactly, which is nice. And my last action is going to be manuscripts again. Let's see what happens. So, as mentioned, Belial didn't get a move before me because of the way the Regency is working. So there's not a lot he can do about this. His main legion takes 42 damage, thanks to Telemachus, and the fact that I have 22 melee. This legion, again, has nothing that can stop me. This is a reasonably disposable legion that people use to either attack Pandemonium a lot of the time, or because they have 3 movement, people tend to put an artifact on it called the Orb of... I think it's the Orb of Destruction, which means that anything that kills that legion is destroyed. It's gone. There's no way to get it back. And the Unholy Fountain being a pretty basic place of power, there's no way it's going to be able to resist the Accursed Company doing 38 damage to it. Now what you may have noticed is that the Accursed Company is quite deep in Belial's territory at this point, and is cut off from my territory. Now, if I hadn't just successfully prosecuted 3 vendettas against Belial, this would be really bad, because it would mean that I can't move that legion again until I manage to enter a state of war with somebody, which can be a problem. But because I can declare a blood feud the next turn, having successfully prosecuted 3 vendettas, I'm not concerned. And here's the Devourer. I'm going to use this to kill all of Belphegor's legions in a couple of turns, I think, assuming the game lasts that long. So yes, I'm definitely the prestige leader at this point. You're never going to get this far ahead in a multiplayer game with actual people in. As you've seen, the AI tends to play reasonably inefficiently. Other people will be messing with you far, far before you get to this point. All successful destruction rituals award triple prestige, which isn't particularly relevant. And Death Takes a Holiday is a minor issue. Essentially, I can't get any tribute or indeed anything. No manuscripts, no tribute, nothing. Completely locked out of those actions for the next couple of turns. Which means I'm going to find it rather difficult to keep my Devourer active, as it takes 2 of each resource each turn. I can keep it up for now. But that's actually a pretty bad event for me. So all of my various terrible things that I've done to people have run their course. So we're going to have to put the humiliates and the demands back up. I'm going to extort Belphegor because I'm not entirely sure I can keep the Devourer around for too long. It's definitely going away next turn unless I start converting tribute types, which I'm going to do. Belphegor has completed the Machine of Agony, which is slightly irritating. That decreases my destruction by 1 level and gives me 1 less order slot. I can just get it straight back this turn, which I think I'm going to do. In fact, I think I'm going to need to not pay the upkeep for the Devourer. That's pretty bad. I essentially just wasted 6 of each tribute type and an order slot bringing that up, but I can get it back when tribute comes back, which it might not do before the end of the game. As you can see, we're already on phase 3. People just aren't showing up to fight the Queen of the Damned, and frankly I don't blame them. I've murdered so many Praetors during this game that, yeah, it's probably the smart move to not show up. I have won the Tongue of the Liar, which I shall now attach to my stronghold to boost my deceit up to 4. That will give me my order slot back that I just lost. We are going to... In fact, I don't think I can improve my destruction this turn. I don't have the order slots to keep myself safe and do that, because I need the rest of my order slots to put my extorts back up. And finally, declare a blood feud with Belial. We will enter a state of perpetual war, and we'll be able to take each other's strongholds. And there's not a lot anybody can do about any of this, due to my infernal rank being higher than theirs. As you can see, getting Prince early can allow you to essentially just hold your opponent's prestige down and stop them from ever getting Prince themselves. It's the type of game where if you get an early advantage, you can just press that advantage forever unless somebody does something clever. Poor Belial, it's his last turn. And people are throwing destruction rituals at my place of power, but you can't change a place of power's ownership with rituals. It has to be with legions. What Belphegor really should be doing at this point is excommunicating himself and trying to take my stronghold. I thought I didn't keep this up. Never mind, I'm definitely not going to be doing that this turn. That's a slight issue. So this is an interface bug and this isn't going away. The way to fix this is by essentially just saving and reloading, so we will be right back after I have done that.